Thanks, Patty, for your compassion, your leadership, your tireless work alongside me and others to build not just a better future for Thunder Bay and Northern Ontario, but right across the country. And indeed, with the context we're in on a global scale, right around the world, what we're doing in Canada matters. The solutions we put forward matter. How we tackle the big issues we're facing matters. And I am just so lucky to have you by my side, my friend. Thank you very much. Marcus, thank you for all your hard work here in Thunder Bay as well. Thank you for all your leadership. Ken, it's great to see you. There you are. You moved. Great to see you again. You know, we've known each other for a long time. Thank you for the ambition that you and your councillors have shown on this Housing Accelerator announcement to make it actually happen. Michelle, Chief Solomon, thank you so much for your leadership as well. It is really important to recognize where we are and with whom we are building this better future, and the Indigenous communities that have been part of this land from time immemorial need to be an inextricable and prosperous part of the future as well, and that's what we're all focused on together. And Bill, thank you for everything you're doing here with Smart Modular Homes, Smart Modular Canada. There we are, Smart Modular Canada. It is really impressive. Patty thanked the tradespeople and the builders here. These are homes that you are building, yes, but you are also building homes and a future that you're going to be able to afford. It's not just about building homes. I know a lot of you are squeezed in terms of rent prices, in terms of purchasing homes, in terms of being able to support growing families. As we solve the housing crisis right across the country, as we move forward in building solutions that you are a part of, you are also building for your future and your kids' future. And that's a really important thing to remember. And I am so deeply grateful for all that you do and all that you're doing in building Canada, literally and figuratively. Before I get started today, I want to highlight something that just happened in Ottawa. I just found out that the pharmacare legislation has now been tabled in the House. This is a big deal. This is, as well resourced as Canada is, there's still far too many people who face impossible choices between paying for medication or paying for groceries and paying for rent. That's why over the past years we've worked very, very hard to bring down prescription medication prices across the country. Today we're taking another really big step forward with a focus on two specific areas that are going to make a big difference for an awful lot of people. The first is around family planning and contraceptions. We know that this is an inextricable part of being healthy, of being able to control your own present and your future and make the choices that are right for you at whatever point in your life, and making sure that contraception is covered by pharmacare and by supports across the country is really, really important. So we're moving forward on that because it's about giving families choices and the power to control their own future regardless of their income levels. As well as moving forward on support for people facing challenges with diabetes. We know there's far too many people who find themselves in worse and worse situations because they can't quite afford to take the medications they need that prevent their diabetes from switching to a different type or getting worse. We know the health consequences end up being both more devastating and more expensive for the system to care for. Making sure we're giving better access to diabetes medication right across the country is part of keeping Canada healthier. And today, in working with other parliamentarians, including the NDP, we're able to move forward on it. C'est une bonne journée aujourd'hui qu'on est en train d'avancer avec de l'appui pour l'assurance médicaments, plus d'aide pour la contraception, plus d'aide pour lutter contre la diabète, pour aider les gens qui vivent avec le diabète. C'est une grande journée pour ça. Mais on est ici aujourd'hui pour parler de logement et c'est un grand plaisir de pouvoir être ici pour démontrer le genre de partenariat qui est au fond du travail que nous devons faire pour résoudre cette crise du logement. The housing crisis is happening right across the country, from a biggest cities to our smallest, most rural or northern or Indigenous communities. Indeed, Indigenous communities have faced housing pressures at an extraordinary level for a very, very long time. We have, as a government, since 2015, gotten into the business of being part of solving for housing. Previous governments had progressively, particularly on the Conservative side, gotten the federal government out of the business of housing. So in 2017, we launched the National Housing Strategy, which right here in Thunder Bay has resulted in about $20 million to Thunder Bay to create and renovate and restore and repurpose and make available close to 2,000 homes. And that has made a huge difference. And we know that there's no one simple solution to solve our housing challenges. So we're doing a whole bunch of different things. We've got various programs from the Rapid Housing Initiative that tackles homelessness, the Rapid Housing Initiative that supports the most vulnerable in how we move forward on now 3 waves of those funding programs, to the Reaching Home program that goes to homelessness and fighting homelessness across the country. We've moved forward on lifting the GST off of purpose-built apartment buildings so that the math makes more sense to build more middle-income rental properties across the country. We're moving forward with various projects on affordable housing. We're moving forward on supports like through FedNor for smart modular homes that are creating more solutions to accelerate and make more affordable homes in remote areas, but also in places right across the country. So there are all sorts of different programs we've been putting forward over the past years that are going at solving the housing problem by creating more units here, creating more methods of doing that there. There was one thing missing, and in our conversations with municipalities across the country about what are the final barriers, what are the biggest barriers to getting more homes built faster in this country, and that's where we created the Housing Accelerator. And that's where we roll up our sleeves and work not with all municipalities across the country, just the ones that are willing to be ambitious about changing the way housing is made in this country. This is not about, a single new project. It's about an approach to building housing across the country that will unlock thousands. We're talking over 650,000 new homes unlocked across this country over the coming years by the Housing Accelerator investments. And like I said, it doesn't go to everywhere. It goes to the places that are willing to step up in really ambitious ways. For example, Thunder Bay saying now every single lot has 4 units as of right. And even in low density areas, you can build 4 stories everywhere. Those changes to zoning give people a lot more opportunities and choices when it comes to building more density. And of course, making sure we're building more density near city centers, near transit stops. These are things that are going to make a difference in quality of life. Shifting in terms of permitting as well, how we're doing away with some of the red tape and accelerating the processes for being able to build more homes. And here in Thunder Bay, they've done a lot looking at underutilized properties, either public lands or nonprofit lands that they can actually build on and put towards building more density, more homes faster. There are all sorts of things that can be done to improve the way the system works to build more homes faster. Indeed, the work that is being done by Housing Accelerator investments across the country is going to unlock more of the kind of industrial strategy on home building that we see right here, whether it's modular homes, whether it's prefabricated, whether it's talking about using AI and robotics to build more homes. I know you've been talking about doing a lot more technological upgrades to be able to build more homes faster here. These are the kinds of things that get unlocked across the country. So right here in Thunder Bay, just like Patty a few weeks ago, I think you were in Marathon with a close to $2 million announcement that's going to unlock the Housing Accelerator Fund there, which is going to be make a big difference, particularly with the economic opportunities that are coming in there. The investment here in Thunder Bay of $20.7 million is going to allow this community to grow faster, to build more homes, and to be better able to support all the opportunities that are coming and that we're seeing across this region. That's what this is about. Le Fonds pour l'accélération du logement, c'est une façon d'investir pour changer la façon qu'on bâtit des maisons à travers le pays. C'est pas juste une question de faire une annonce sur ce projet-ci ou ce projet-là. Bien sûr que ça fait partie de notre approche. Ça, c'est un changement dans la façon qu'on fait du zonage, qu'on accélère la densification, qu'on élimine la paperasse et qu'on accélère les processus pour que les gens puissent bâtir des maisons plus rapidement. Ça va changer la donne sur comment on va répondre aux défis de notre pays. Because the challenges of this country are, we are growing. There are sectors of our economy that are booming, but the cost of housing, the cost of rent, on top of the cost of groceries and the cost of fuel because of global factors, are a huge pressure right now. And if we can increase the supply of housing right across the country, as we continue to grow, as we continue to bring in the workforce we need from around the world, as we continue to make sure that Indigenous peoples can be full partners in the success and the prosperity we're building as a country, well, that changes the future that people can see themselves in. People who are wanting to retire and, yes, get rid of a home that's become too large for them, but don't want to leave their neighborhood, want to be able to still know where they are, not have to go to some far-off place. Those are solutions that we're bringing forward with the Housing Accelerator and the partnerships with municipalities. Young families who getting their start, who can't see a path towards purchasing their own home the way previous generations had. This is something we're solving for. People who are looking at rents that are just too expensive to be able to even get the start in life they want to have, that's part of what we're solving for as well. And this is a challenge that obviously requires multiple different solutions, which is what we're putting forward, but fundamentally requires us to work together. The federal government, the provincial government, municipal governments, Indigenous governments. Requires us to bring in innovative partners like Smart Modular, to work with co-ops and nonprofits and the public sector to actually grow opportunities for affordable housing. Work with developers and project leads to make these things happen. The kind of partnership that Canadians have always shown, an ability to roll up our sleeves, lean on each other and get things done. That's what we're capable of as a country. That's what we've been able to do when we've solved big housing challenges in the past, whether it was the post-war growth after World War II or the baby boom coming of age and wanting to buy homes. We have solved housing challenges before in this country. And right now, including in places like this, with the support of federal investment, we're doing it again. So it's an incredible pleasure to be back here in Thunder Bay. Great opportunity to share some good news with everyone, but also reaffirm our commitment to building a better future for all Canadians. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Your government has come under considerable fire, I guess, for the carbon tax, and you did offer some relief on home heating fuel in certain parts of the country. Was there any consideration, or is there any consideration on turning that to natural gas as well? And I understand that it was to allow some retrofitting, but I mean, these costs are hurting people.
Let me be very, very clear, because there's unfortunately a lot of misinformation and deliberate disinformation by conservative politicians around the price on pollution and around the Canada carbon rebate that's being delivered across the country. We took a look at what the dirtiest type of fuel out there is for people to heat their homes with, and that's home heating oil. It is more expensive. It is more vulnerable to international price shocks and fluctuations, and it's dirtier and more polluting than just about any other way of heating your home. However, it's also proportionately more used by people who are at the lower income of the lower levels of income in older homes, who can't perhaps afford to upgrade to a heat pump or to other ways of doing it. So the same way we made a decision as a country that we were going to phase out coal as a source of creating electricity because it's so polluting, we knew that phasing out home heating oil would make a lot of sense. I can guarantee you, in all of these smart modular homes, there's not a single one of them going to be built with home heating oil built in, right? No, it's not an efficient, it doesn't make sense in our new builds to do this. So what we said was those communities, and yes, proportionately there's a lot in Atlantic Canada, but they're right across the country. This isn't a project or a program for one part of the country versus others. It applies to the hundreds of thousands of homes right across the country that still rely on home heating oil, where we've said we're going to put a pause on the price on pollution on home heating oil for the next 3 years while we bring in a program that is going to deliver heat pumps as an alternative to home heating oil because it's cheaper, because it's more efficient, because it's better for the environment and more reliable. Now, the challenge on that is the upfront cost is significant, particularly for low-income families. Even though it pays for itself in the savings over the course of a few years or a decade, that upfront cost is a barrier, which is why we've created a heating oil to heat pump program nationally that is there to support people so that they can get that capital investment that they can then pay off over the years. On top of that, with a number of provinces, we are working to make sure that anyone at or below median income will basically get a free heat pump installed to replace home heating oil. That's going to make a huge difference. And we've been calling on the Government of Ontario, like so many other governments across the country, to step up with this because it's a way of saving money, it's a way of supporting people, and it's a way of fighting climate change and being more energy efficient at the same time. So that's a perfect example of this program that is not a regional program, that is a program that will have an impact right across the country because it takes supports right across the country to fight climate change. Now, the other aspect of the price on pollution that certainly conservative politicians don't want to talk about is that 8 out of 10 families across the country in jurisdictions like Ontario, where the federal pollution pricing regime is in place, 8 out of 10 families get more money back every year from the Canada carbon rebate checks that arrive 4 times a year than it actually costs them in climate change, in the carbon price. So what you're actually looking at is for a family of 4, particularly a rural family of 4 in Ontario, about $1,300 a year is the checks you get from the federal government, $1,100 for more urban areas, but that is more than 8 out of 10 families in this country pay, or the province pay, in terms of carbon pricing. So we are moving together in a way that actually fights climate change, that encourages companies and industries to invest in lower carbon footprints because it costs them less, and it puts money back in the pockets of the middle class. That's the affordability and the fight against climate change that is core to building a better future for everyone.
There's been some controversy surrounding the cost of the ArriveCAN app. Can you please address that, and why did it cost so much?
This was obviously an unacceptable situation where procurement processes internal to the Government of Canada ended up not following the proper rules at a time where the government was doing everything it could to try and keep Canadians safe in a never-before-seen pandemic. And it is certainly possible and indeed likely that certain people took advantage of the procurement processes at that time. That's why there are fulsome investigations going on right now. That's why there will be consequences for anyone who tried to profiteer or profit off of this extraordinarily difficult situation we went through a few years ago.
Next question. Jordan Olmsted with the Canadian Press. How is a scientist working on high-security viruses at the National Microbiology Lab allowed to collaborate with Chinese government agencies considered a threat to Canada?
A number of years ago, our security systems, our intelligence and security agencies flagged problems at the Winnipeg labs that were followed up on. We know as a country that increasingly countries like China and others are trying to either influence or get secrets out of our country. And that's why we have to continue to be extraordinarily vigilant about how we're making sure we're doing everything necessary to keep people safe, to keep our research institutions safe. As a government, we've taken many, many initiatives, and I've tasked our National Security and Intelligence Advisor to look even deeper at this Winnipeg's lab situation and make recommendations on how we can move forward appropriately. This is something that people would expect governments to take seriously and expect all parliamentarians to take seriously. Unfortunately, throughout this process, we have seen the Conservative Party, specifically Pierre Poilievre, choosing to spew conspiracy theories and drum up political attacks, partisan attacks, on an issue that, quite frankly, should be bringing Canadians and parliamentarians together to try and solve this. The quickness with which they're looking for partisan advantage is not just undermining Canadians' trust in the system, but interfering with the ability of Parliament to deal with this. One of the reasons it has taken so long to get this report into Parliament is because of the choice that Conservatives made to try and extract any amount of political advantage by drumming up a level of partisanship and toxicity that is not serving Canadians. There's lots of opportunity to have responsible political debates about how we're moving forward as a country and what needs to be fixed, what's being done well, what needs to be done better. Absolutely. That's part of the give and take in our democracy. But the choice to weaponize national security in a way that is rife with conspiracy theories and partisan attacks is a choice that I don't think is worthy of the kind of responsible leadership that Canadians deserve. I will also add that hearing two particular Conservative members, Michael Chong and James Bazan, suddenly being front and center on issues of security and international impact after having been complete ghosts over the past number of months on anything to do with standing up for Ukraine, for example, or even on the matter of their colleague Leslyn Lewis calling for a withdrawal from the United Nations of Canada, they won't say a thing. But when it comes to making partisan attacks out of an issue that should be taken seriously by all parliamentarians, it's not worthy of an official opposition.
Thank you. Last question.
Katie Nichols, Dougal Media. I'm just wondering, you had mentioned about the cost of groceries. They're set to still rise by upwards of 5% for 2024, even though housing is coming in. People still have to eat, even though the federal government has met with the top 5 grocery chains. What else is being done to help Canadians at the cash register? We've
actually passed legislation around increasing powers to the Competition Bureau in Canada to be able to ensure transparency and accountability from our 5 largest grocery chains. Over the past number of years, we have seen a tremendous consolidation of major grocery stores in this country under just 5 different owners or 5 different groups, and we need to make sure there is a level of accountability and transparency in their practices to make sure that Canadians are being properly and fairly treated. These large grocery companies are making billions of dollars of profit at a time where Canadians are having to make excruciatingly difficult choices at the cash register during the checkout. And that is not right. So by using the tools the federal government has around transparency and accountability, we're holding those grocery companies to account and expecting to see stabilization of food prices. Unfortunately, yet again, Conservatives are choosing to play politics with this, have delayed the passage of the Competition Act powers, and are indeed voting against some of these measures that are there to support Canadians in a time where people need governments to be there to support them with affordability.
Thank you. One more final question from Brad Can.
In English and French, please. The Quebec Court of Appeal is presenting its decision on Bill 21 today. Do you still have the intention to intervene in Supreme Court, and will you use this opportunity to try and clarify the use of the notwithstanding clause by the provinces?
Tout d'abord, nous attendons la réponse et la décision de la Cour plus tard aujourd'hui. On va avoir des commentaires à émettre immédiatement après. Mais les gens connaissent très bien ma position sur cette affaire et je vais répéter que si et quand cet enjeu finira à la Cour suprême, nous allons intervenir en tant que gouvernement fédéral pour protéger et soutenir la Charte des droits et libertés canadiennes. We are indeed expecting the court to rule on the case later today, which means we will have an official response after the court ruling. But I can repeat that people know my position around Bill 21. People also know that when and if the court case ends up before the Supreme Court of Canada, this federal government will intervene to defend the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.